I made my Fantastic Four team is here with me this morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Robert Kirabo.
A lovely morning to you, Priscilla, and of course our darling viewers. Thank you so much for waking up with us. For me, I'm still in the excitement. I'm not so much a regular fan of soccer, but yesterday I was watching UBC and I saw us 13-0. Well, up to now, I'm still happy. The girls at least had something that kept me smiling all day. I never watched a match of 13-0, 13 goals, 0. And more so when Fauzia scored those 6 of the 13, I'm really impressed.
That's in the world of sport. Good morning to you, Mollen Kenyana.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Priscilla, and of course my team here. But also, I want to extend those very wishes for a good morning to you, our family here at Good Morning Uganda, and thank you for waking up with us.
Mollen Kenyon is definitely going to be giving us an update later on regarding the COP26 that is happening and being hosted in the UK. And Felix Nkunda is also with us this morning. Good morning to you, Felix.
Good morning. How are you, Priscilla?
Very well.
Today I woke up to the melodies of, you remember that song we used to sing in nursery or primary? Make a melody in my heart, make a melody in my heart. It's actually a Bible verse, making melody, like you wake up making melody in your heart about God. And this morning I was stampeding on the Bible, somewhere in Mark 10:46, and I fell on this nice scripture that talks about Bartimaeus. I don't know if that's the English pronunciation. Bartimaeus. I know him better in Uganda, Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus. I don't want to struggle with those son of
Bartimaeus in English.
So that guy was a blind nigger in the Bible. And the guy just only needed to hear that Jesus was actually passing. That's all he needed to hear. His healing was in the fact that he heard Jesus was passing. And from that, he said, I am not keeping quiet. Even when people are telling him, why don't you just keep quiet? Let the man go. Like, So it sort of like got me thinking, how many times do we like actually make an effort to meet our own salvation? I woke up on that note and trying to make melody in my heart, singing praise. You know, as you brush your teeth, you're making melody.
That's true, yeah.
So it's a good feeling to wake up in the ambience of grace.
Meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, one song that you sing in the shower,
when
you're brushing your teeth.
There's a song by Nathaniel Bassey. It's called You Are God. I don't know if you know it.
From the beginning to the end.
For me, it is like my anthem. At all times, at all moments, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the... You know that call? I don't think you know that call, actually. Priscilla, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. Well, allow us to first give you a recap of the news that has made headlines with the local stories, international stories, and of course, in the world of nature climate, responding to today's decisions that are being made by world leaders. But starting off with the local stories.
Let us begin with issues regarding security, where yesterday the police mouthpiece Fred Enanga gave us some information and tips on how best we can fight these acts of domestic terrorism that are happening in our country. That was during the weekly press briefing held at police headquarters in Naguru, where police advised the public to desist from collecting abandoned objects that could endanger their lives. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga said they have found several remains arising from public vigilancy, though 3 people have died due to these abandoned artillery pieces. Police have embarked on using Israel tactics to crack down cells that are conducting terror in the country. So far, 48 suspects have been arrested in connection to the ongoing terrorism activities. Uganda Police Force spokesperson Fred Enanga described the conduct of suicide attackers. Participating in months of indoctrination, they appear nervous and have focus intent. They blend in behavior. Remnants of war buried undergrounds are now becoming a danger to human life and the public is advised to desist from collecting abandoned objects that have claimed 3 lives so far in Semuto, Nakaseke district. Police will also engage non-governmental organizations to create awareness to the public on explosive devices vigilance. Meanwhile, security is also hunting for Wobulenzi Mayor Sebalamu Moses for provoking police as it stormed one of his bars operating against the COVID-19 guidelines.
Court of Appeal has started hearing 79 appeals, a special session which will be conducted on 30th November 2021. And the Court of Appeal Registrar, Her Worship Susan Kanyange, says the sessions will reduce case backlog in the judiciary. The Court of Appeal has over 7,000 cases backlog, which has delayed in delivering justice. The Court of Appeal has opened special sessions handling the 79 cases which are having a backlog, causing proceedings at Court of Appeal in civil divisions of Kampala to slow down. The first panel consists of Justice Catherine Bamgeire, Justice Stephen Musota and Justice Irene Mulyagonja, Justice Engonda Ntege, Justice Muzamiru Chivedi and Justice Christopher Gashirabake are the judges on the second panel. Among the appeals to be handled includes the one for Justice Anup Singh against National Water and Sewerage Corporation. The judiciary spokesperson Jameson Kalemani says civil appeal sessions will be disposed of by 30th November. So far, over 65 appeal petitions rising from high courts across the country have been filed in Court of Appeal, awaiting hearing anytime.
Away from the judiciary, we now head to politics and health, where the National Unity Platform political party wants government to come up with a plan to accompany the vaccination projections of acquiring 21 million vaccines and vaccinating 12 million Ugandans by December this year. NUP spokesperson Joel Senyonyi told the media at NUP offices in Kamocha that government should first avail vaccines before denying services to citizens. The National Unity Platform party leader has reacted to the policy by some government institutions and offices like the RDCs of pushing out people because they have not yet been vaccinated against COVID-19. According to NUP, all Ugandans want to be vaccinated, but the vaccines are inadequate. NUP party spokesperson Joel Senyonyi responded to the Deputy Speaker of Parliament's directive and advised her to ask for more vaccines. At Entebbe Airport, people and tourists who come into the country have to wait to be tested and receive COVID-19 results later. National Unity Platform advises Ugandans to resist the proposal of denying bail to people because everybody will be a victim. Senyonyi also explains that Segirinya's health condition is deteriorating since he was denied bail to get treatment. Meanwhile, NUP urges government to increase funding to strengthen the area of investigation and other activities.
And finally, on the local stories, Forum for Democratic Change Party wants Ministry of Education and Sports to release a detailed plan on tuition for students hailing from poor families. FDC party spokesperson Ibrahim Semuju was addressing the media in Najanankumbi. Universities and tertiary institutions have reopened with a low turn-up, and the Forum for Democratic Change FDC appealed to the Ministry of Education and Sports to release a plan for the reopening of the rest of the schools and students from other countries studying from the universities. The FDC spokesperson Ibrahim Semujunganda also advises the ministry to allocate vaccination teams at every entry of the learning institutions to vaccinate students not yet vaccinated. About the opening of the economy, FDC also wants the Finance and Trade Ministry to release a complete audit of businesses that have been affected by the pandemic and lockdown. Semuju also called for an external investigation to identify the reason for bombings in the country. On the other hand, FDC's party president and other leaders are touring different areas of the country as they prepare to fill vacant positions.
Well, also, I will be looking at our international stories, and our first story. The U.S. Supreme Court hears challenges to Texas abortion ban. Now, Texas law that is banning abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy has prompted mass protests in defense of reproductive rights. The Supreme Court in taking up challenges to Texas law that has virtually ended abortion in the nation's second largest state. The United States Supreme Court has had challenges to a Texas law that has effectively banned abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Now, the Texas ban has also prompted widespread protests, and Al Jazeera's Petty Clayton reporting from Washington, D.C. on Monday said about 100 protesters on both sides of the abortion issues had gathered outside the Supreme Court before the days of hearing. The U.S. Justice Department and abortion providers have objected to the law, which imposes a near total ban on the procedure in the country's second largest state, home for about 29 million people. Now, still in international stories, China and Russia revive push to lift UN sanctions on North Korea. China and Russia are pushing the United Nations Security Council to ease sanctions on North Korea by reviving a 2019 attempt to remove a ban on Pyongyang's exports to status and seafood and textile, and expanding it to include lifting a refined petroleum import cap. Now, it is a reworked draft solution seen by the Reuters news agency. China and Russia want 15-member council to remove those sanctions with the intent of enhancing the livelihood of the civilian population in the isolated Asian states. North Korea has been subjected to UN sanctions since 2006 over its nuclear and ballistic missile program. Now to Africa. Zimbabwe's president in the UK for the first time in 25 years. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has arrived in the UK for the COP26 summit. This is the first time in 25 years that the Zimbabwean leader has set foot in the UK. Relations between Zimbabwe and UK became strained during the rule of Mr. Mnangagwa's predecessor, Robert Mugabe, following the takeover of white-owned farms and violence against opposition members. In a tweet, Mr. Mnangagwa thanked UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the UK Secretary General Antonio Guterres for welcoming him to the summit being held in the city of Glasgow in Scotland.
Talking COP26, world leaders promise to end deforestation by 2030. Now, more than 100 world leaders will promise to end and reverse deforestation by 2030 in COP26 Climate Summit's first major deal. Now, Brazil, where the largest part of the Amazon rainforest have been cut, will be among the signatories on Tuesday today. The pledge includes almost 14 billion euros, that is 19.2 billion US dollars of public and private funds. Now, experts welcomed the move but warned a previous deal in 2014 had failed to slow deforestation at all, and commitments needed to be delivered on. Felling trees contributes to climate change because it depletes forests that absorb vast amounts of the warming gas carbon dioxide. Now, the two-week summit in Glasgow is seen as crucial if climate change is to be brought under control. Now, the countries who say they will sign the pledge, including Canada, Brazil, Russia, and Indonesia, cover around 85% of the world's forests. Now, some of the funding will go to developing countries to restore damaged land, tackle wildfires, and support indigenous communities.
Thank you so much, Molen Kenyana. Now, of course, in our newsreel, we're going to be discussing a little bit more details to the COP26 and how exactly it affects Uganda, to the decisions and the agreements that are going to be signed. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda that will be also coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. Robert Kirabo will be hosting.
That is the prison spokesperson, Fred Baine, and we want to look at the welfare of inmates in our prisons. Of course, we're knowing that they are densely populated, but also want to focus on the issue of human rights and how safe they are while in incarceration. Okay,
and your energy drink this morning?
Definitely, I come to you with the best that you can take this morning, which is Hallelujah Ginger Tea or Hallelujah Turmeric drink These drinks contain what you may not get at the same time and put it together. The ginger, the turmeric, the lemon, and all these you need to boost your immune system. So they have been prepared and packed in this small bottle. Get yourself one at the nearest shop or supermarket or retail, and you'll be able to boost your immune system. Life is the most important thing that you have and you should treasure. So boosting your immune system enables you fight a couple of diseases.
Opinion is important and it's transformational, and we here on Good Morning Uganda, we like to hear of your opinions. And our poll daily this morning is regarding
that will be our poll question for today. What more can government do to deal with the increasing extreme weather disasters? What more can government do to deal with the increasing extreme weather disasters? And this basically also springs from the ongoing conference there in Glasgow with the efforts to mend the gaps in climate change and of course dealing with nature. But for you to share your opinion with us, please be able to hit our Twitter platform, that is a hashtag UBCGMU. You can also use a WhatsApp message through our WhatsApp number 0709 60 25 92. And for some of you who have our Facebook pages and those who having us live on YouTube, well, of course, be able to hit those social media platforms, leave us a message. We'll be glad to share with you. Priscilla.
Well, again, we continue with you. We do have a new listener that has started watching Good Morning Uganda from Lira, and that is Derek Mate. Thank you so much for choosing UBC as your preferred network to start your morning off. In response to that poll question, I would like to engage Kenyana Molen in what would advisory be the right way to actually go engage in that.
Well, I think it is clear that we have seen more frequency in extreme weather events, right from the floods to the landslides, and this seems to be only increasing. So I think we're wondering what can be done, what can be done to make sure that we don't lose lives or property to these extreme weather disasters, because it has come to a time where it's inevitable. It's either when it's raining, it's too much to cause a disaster, or when it's not raining, it's less to actually cause the drought. So even the drought is extreme. So we want to know exactly what can be done. What you think that is basically a right move to make sure that we're all safe.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Schools did reopen yesterday, that's university and tertiary institutions. Of course, the big question there is regarding the SOPs and how are they able to manage SOPs. And one of the recommendations as per the FDC party is that perhaps they should have jobs right at the entries of the universities. For every student that is returning back to school physically, they should get themselves a job to meet the target of the 5.8 million Ugandans by the end of this year, but also the targeted groups being fully vaccinated, including students 18 years of age and above, teaching staff, non-teaching staff, anyone that is directly and indirectly related to education as a sector. Felix Nkunda, you are in this sector in one way or another. What has been your experience on day one?
Oh, I managed to pass by at least the universities, and I was able to see how excited the students are to be back at school. You'll see so much life in them, and the turn-up was quite high. I was really amazed, and absolutely we hope that we're heading for the best. At least there's a lot of vigilancy. I noticed. I moved around universities. At least I was able to go to Makerere and YMCA. I noticed that they have put various washing points, and that I love. For hands, there's temperature guns. There's always, like, everywhere you go, there's some message about masking and all this sort of how to abide by the SOPs. I think it's been a long time coming. We don't want to throw this opportunity back to the dagger, and I hope we do use it well for us in the academicians institutions. Okay,
all right. What has been your experience on day one, Robert? Any interactions?
Yes, I have people in my home that go to university, and of course some are not able to attend personally because of COVID-19. They were told, for example, Makerere, that the finalists and the first years will be on campus. So the rest of you, it's going to be online online learning. And I think this is a time government has to greatly think on how best they reduce data. Because if you have 4 of them and each was telling me I'll need about 10,000 daily, and that was a budget of 40. So I was like, how many parents can really afford this?
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, we just have to push on forward. Someday this all too will be history and we'll probably be back to normal. But the normal will come with advancements and adjustments, and we have to take that COVID-19 jab, not for the country's sake, for your own sake, for the sake of your health. When you get the jab, and in case you contract COVID-19 thereafter, you will not have to worry about the severity of the disease. It will be much more treatable and more curable than if you don't have the jab, and that's the most important thing.
Just one thing. You've been sending lots of shout outs to our viewers. I want to send my shout out to one of our ardent viewers. That is the First Lady. It's good morning,
Mama.
There's no better way to say it.
That would be like,
Thank you so much for waking up with Good Morning Uganda, and of course watching UBC. You and your family, we thank you so much for all your efforts for this beautiful country, must say.
Well, greetings to you, Mama, here from Good Morning Uganda. The journey does continue because we have a lot to discuss in our 7 o'clock hour. Allow us to take a short commercial break. But before we do, guys, it was Jagenda Semakola's birthday. We need to send him shout-outs. Shout-outs to Jagenda. What is your birthday message to him?
Well, Jagenda, long live. That is all I can say. Long live, and may the good Lord continue anointing you in the various fields that you venture into. Okay,
all right. Molin Kenyana?
Jagenda is like the true definition of fine wine. He is growing, but and I'll join a lot of Ugandans who think this guy is actually old, but he looks young. So may you continue to live like, grow like fine wine.
Yeah, Uncle Jag's my homeboy. For me, he's a homeboy because the kind of jazz we catch, he's so amusing that he's quite versatile. Yeah. You know, and I'm just waiting for the day he cuts his hair. Me and Ruben were debating about the shape of his head. Because
I don't think that will happen soon.
That would be suicidal. That would
no
be
wonder he
suicidal.
can't touch his hair.
That
would be
we even put money to it
yes.
and say that if you cut your hair, we'll have a good amount of money. But I think it's protecting the shape of his head.
Yeah, that would be suicidal. I wouldn't advise him to risk. I wouldn't advise him to risk. You know, hair changes
where this
looks.
can happen if there's
Meanwhile,
a Delilah moment
Priscilla,
for him. And then,
did you know Robert used to have an afro?
Yes, I did. I saw it actually,
yeah,
and I was like, hey, boys to men.
What happened?
I tell you, life happened, age happened.
Happy birthday to you, Jagenda Semakula, and we are so proud, and we thank you so much for your continued impact on the media and journalism fraternity, and thank you so much for being a leader, a mentor, you know, someone who guides you and encourages you. He's always there when we need him, and calling him or texting him very early in the morning to consult about things here and there. Yes, so thank you so much, and we wish you nothing but the best in this new year that you have entered. Allow us to go into the song for the day. See you in the 7 o'clock hour.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Breathing in snowflakes, burnt lungs, sour taste. Lights gone, days end, struggling.
175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Vaccinated today so we can get closer to the normal way of life. Echa COVID-19 chija kugwa.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning to Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us into a 7 o'clock hour, 3 minutes past 7 a.m. It is Good Morning Uganda, and this is UBC. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, alongside Felix Nkunda, Robert Kirabo, and this morning we do have Kenyana Molen joining us for one of our topical conversations regarding the COP26, which is a conference of parties taking place in Glasgow, UK. But before we get into that conversation, allow us to remind you of what our daily poll is this morning so that we can have your 2 cents.
And our poll question is, what more can government do to deal with the increasing extreme weather disasters? What more can government do to deal with the increasing extreme weather disasters? And be able to hit our social media platforms, but of course also through our WhatsApp number, you'll be able to share with us your opinion, which is 0709 60 25 92.
All right, in Glasgow, you do have over 100 countries and leaders that have gathered in the UK for this leadership summit, and the purpose of it is to actually, create and protect the ecosystem that we live in. We have yet another chance to protect the environment that we live in, to protect ourselves, given the so many stories that Molen Kenyana has been bringing us in regards to weather, nature and climate. Most resonating for me was the time when we were having Olympics back in Tokyo, and how they were actually facing a lot of challenges in terms of climate and weather that changed and altered schedules and things like that. And so we have seen these coming into effect here in Uganda. Currently, Bududa is suffering. Kasese has also been suffering from a lot of flooding because of the river banks trying to expand, make way, or because of land encroachment that has come on. And so under COP26, it might be a global summit, but we want to find out for Uganda what are going to be our benefits. But to just get a full view of what COP26 is all about, Molen Kenyana, can you give us a brief?
Yes, now COP26 is basically, like you've put it, a conference of parties, and this is the 26th time that world leaders are meeting to talk about this. Now, COP26 was built as a UN initiative, and that is under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is the body that actually does organize these COPs for over the years. Now, the last time that actually we had an impact from COPs was in 2015 when we came out with the Paris Agreement, and that was the historical COP21 that gave us an agreement where we saw all world leaders coming together to sign an accord that was meant to keep the global warming to below 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is a target that we're still looking for. Now, after the 2015 agreement, that is the Paris Agreement, we have seen more of the COP, because following that was COP22, and then the COP23, one that actually was held in Morocco. Now, most of what has been happening over that time is looking at mitigation, how they can control the emission of greenhouse gases. Then we go to adaptation with, of course, world leaders making commitments here and there. But we have not seen a critical impact ever since then, which is why this year's COP26 is very crucial, because this is a time that we're looking at being a turning point. It has to be the time that they come to make sure that most of the commitments that these leaders have put forward are going to be done. And of course, then we did see funding that was promised to especially developing countries, that is $100 billion that up until now we are still asking for people who made that commitment. The rich countries that actually pollute most are not even delivering on that $100 billion pledge that they did. So it is a roller coaster of things that have been happening. And for the past 3 decades, we look at the fact that the emissions keep rising up, and meaning that we also have a rise in temperatures. So that is something that we're looking forward to be addressed at COP26.
All right, thank you so much, Kenana. Well, with the gentlemen here, we've always had the discussion of politics and democracy, politics and administration, politics and service delivery. Let's talk about politics and science. How can politics adhere to what science is saying? Because this science is talking about environmental conservation and protection. You are talking about deforestation being ended by the year 2030. Now, if you're having over 100 leaders coming to sit under one roof to be able to discuss these things, these are political leaders, but they are also leaders of influence that can change the narrative for what science is speaking to us in regards to climate, nature, and weather. So, does politics respect science in this regard, Felix?
Definitely. In fact, it is the most important associate of conservation. There is no better associate of conservation than politics or politicians. No wonder the summit is mad by politicians. Actually, by far politicians than activists, which is the worrying bit that I would want also, because I thought we'd be talking to Moren on is it Zoom or what? In Glasgow, as a person who has so much passion for these all things of environment and what, because and that's where the evidence is that, you see, politics, as we normally tell people, that every man is a political animal. I've had people say, Xavier, politics. At the end of the day, it comes back to us. If you may refocus particularly about environment and climate, which is majorly the topic about this whole COP26 conference. You know, as a matter of fact, that in the aftermath of a couple of UN resolutions in terms of conservation of climate and, of course, upholding to the realities of nature, Uganda in particular came out to craft or domesticate particular laws that are meant to assist, observe these. And some of them, even later on, formed institutions and are fully funded by government. Look at institutions like NEMA. It's an act of parliament, and it is fully funded by government. You look at the establishment of authorities or boards like UTB, the tourism boards, the existence of the World Forest Authority, you know, and just to mention, but if you look at the wildlife education centers, all these work towards the same commonality of preservation of what one would call a climate and environment. And this is the good spirit, the starting, the political goodwill towards that whole aspect. In as much as there could be challenges, but if you want me to talk about Uganda in particular and the government, there's been political goodwill. And it's evident in very many ways. Now, you see, if you want to achieve a particular dimension of interest, there are players. And we must appreciate that there are various players in this. Government has a role, and so do other players. We have had scenarios in this country. For example, my brother Robert here, even earlier off air, were talking about the issue of abuse in terms of infrastructure. You see, there's a big friction between infrastructure development vis-a-vis conservation. That basically, that's been the biggest highlight of the challenges we are facing. That's why you see issues of encroachment, people encroaching on forests. You remember the report, the Mgemelero report, talking about the forest reserves, how they have been all taken away. In fact, it fits well into the discussion of deforestation. You know, so there's a big friction between infrastructure development and conservation. What you said earlier is that you see countries, and we are going through this process as a third world country. Now, the reason why today, as even Molen said earlier, that some of these big, she called them the rich countries, some of these rich countries, as Molen calls them, the reason why the pressure is on them, they have far past the level which we are going through. Countries damage the environment most when they are trying to hold tight on the grip of industrialization, because that's one of the processes a country will go through to get to a particular level in terms of economic status. Now, countries, third world countries, today seem like they are the ones who are abusing more. But other countries, the US, the UK, Europe, they have been through there.
Okay.
So that's why the burden is onto them now. And that's why they're the biggest emitters of some of these gases and what and what. So lastly, about like our role is to find a consolidation or to find a balance on how we can still get what we want that will help us increase our economic status, but also in line with the values of conservation. And with the new, most latest technology, I think this is very much possible.
Okay, so with diversity in this summit, you get to see that those that have been there, walked the mile, can be able to help developing countries to make either same decisions or even better decisions, given the evaluation and monitoring of the policies and the amendments and the treaties that were signed previously. Speaking of which, in Africa, one of the challenges that we're having is carbon trade. In Gabon recently, in this very same year, there was a lot of deforestation that they are facing currently. Molen Kenyana did share about a $17 million that was supposed to be given to African countries to fight deforestation, and that's one of the challenges. And I know, Robert Kirabo, you've been very much interested in carbon trade.
Well, Priscilla, I was watching Antonio Guterres, I think that is the Secretary General of the United Nations, speak yesterday. I closely monitored the UK Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and of course a few African leaders who are just given time to show their presence. Maybe at closed door meetings they'll explain so much. But in 2015, a group of these leaders met. And one of the things they agreed upon was carbon trade. Today, we are all looking at these emissions that we are giving out so much. Of course, Africa contributes less, but is experiencing a number of these effects from the developed world. And I was asking myself, why is it hard? This part talking about ending deforestation by 2030. But they have a window where we can promote afforestation with economic benefits that are safe. And that is carbon trade. I want to tell you, today people are cutting down trees because they are looking for charcoal, they are looking for maybe where to stay. But if this issue of carbon trade was streamlined and made simpler, I want to tell you, even afforestation would beat deforestation. Because, Priscilla, when you look at the millions in carbon trade, if you study it and understand it, I want to tell you, all the land we have in Uganda, you would see people now no longer going in for maybe even matoke, going in for pine. people would plant these trees because they would reap. An acre, someone can get about 100 million.
Okay.
Just in carbon trade.
So
for me, I believe, much as you're looking very far to ending this, if we promote afforestation, vis-a-vis deforestation, with these enormous economic benefits, let them fulfill their commitments of these monies, and we just inject this. We shall see that these layers will be absorbed, and then we shall have a safer way to go.
Lastly, Molen Kenyana, how does this benefit us directly as a country, Uganda? Because deforestation is one of our challenges. The other challenge is the growing industrialization, where you do have reserved areas being given out to investors for industrialization, which then emits, gases that shouldn't be in the atmosphere, which then affects the ecosystem. We do have artificial introduction of, chemicals into our ground. Land use and protection is one of their topical conversations this morning. So how is this directly supposed to benefit Uganda?
Well, we look at so far what Uganda we have been dealing with, because clearly, and like Robert put it, we are the ones that are most vulnerable to the effects of this increase in temperatures, the effects of climate change, to put it clear. But again, we are not the ones causing this change. And it's important to note that the countries that I'm calling the rich countries are the biggest polluters. So you look at countries like China, they are, top on the polluting list for sure. But the fact that whenever they have a deficit, they did actually make a commitment last month that they went ahead and just went back on, because they had committed to cut emissions in terms of coal production. Then when they got a small deficit in power, the first thing that the president ordered for is to double production in coal. So you can see that it's evident that for us we are doing really less, and much that we can do is adaptation. How do we then deal with the changes that are inevitable? Because as a country that is developing and most vulnerable to these impacts, I think much of what we can do is adaptation, but also regard to first of all, stop the causes. If we are looking at increased industrialization, like you've put it, Priscilla, then that means that we have to be careful on how this industrialization is done. Is it in a way that we are safeguarding the production of these gases? For example, we did see KCCA recently talking about a water plant, the garbage collection plant, something like that. So meaning that, and one of the gases that are actually worrying that comes from such plants is methane. While we're talking about carbon dioxide as one of those gases that do trap heat, but methane is also worrying. So it poses a question of what kind of industrialization are we going for? And then Robert also was talking about the deforestation part. So meaning that at one point we have to look at more of the afforestation than deforestation, and that is something that it can be done really.
Of course, she speaks with passion, and she will be giving us daily updates until this COP26 comes to a closure and what will be decided upon at the end of the day. Vanessa Nakate has been fighting for justice as far as climate justice for Africa is concerned, so much so that she was written and appeared on the front page of Time magazine, which is a New York big tabloid, addressing the issues that she's talking about here, Africa and climate justice. You can follow her on her social media platforms and read about what she's actually advocating for. Now, Molen did speak about change being inevitable. As far as COVID-19 is concerned, change is actually also inevitable in this regard. We had the presidential address last week, and Parliament has responded in that regard by announcing a no access policy to all its members, that either staff, members of Parliament, or even visitors that want to access the premises of the parliamentary building. And some members of Parliament have come out to say this is a quote-unquote a bad decision. So why would such a decree be quote-unquote said to be a bad decision by implementers of the law, who very much should be examples of the fight that we are having as COVID-19? Felix.
Well, this is what you have been saying, Priscilla. And it is just that, and as an institution of government, Parliament is kick-starting the race. Imagine if judiciary and the premises were not accessible if people were not vaccinated. the last address of the president, you clearly heard that at least government is trying. Let's be honest this time round. They're trying to get the vaccinations from wherever and whichever way, as long as we have the vaccination. What are we doing as human beings? All we are talking about is open the economy, open. You have the keys. It only takes you to get the keys and open. The economy should be opened by you, the people, not government. It's about you. Government has come out with a target on what it wants. We only want probably 5 million people. The key is in your hands as the public.
Those are 529 MPs that would be sorted.
Actually, for them, then even your visitors, your PAs, your drivers, your whatever. Let's start. I think this whole thing of COVID, because it's just not about individuals, we have to get to a point where we are going to force the public to comply. Because if Robert is sick, all of us are sort of like our arms are open up to getting sick. So I think it's a good move by Parliament, and probably they listen to Good Morning Uganda quite often. I know for a fact, because these recommendations we have made time and again, that how about the institutions of government start the drive. And we must thank the custody and the stewardship of Ndugu Jacob Olanya for handling this, and deputy, because this is the way to go. Before you know, let's have other premises of government not accessible to people who are not vaccinated. Because if we don't do this, we can't stay like this. We have been here for 2 years. We are damn tired of this whole thing. So we must find, that's the thing, yes. We must find a way forward and stop asking for government to open the economy. The keys to open the economy are in your hands.
Okay. All right. Some members of the House have come out to say this is not good. First of all, we have shortage of doses and shortage of vaccines, but we have every vaccine available on this market, and the Ministry of Health has not come out to say that we have run out of vaccines. So how the shortage should be that we completely have nothing, like we are at zero, so you cannot get the vaccination. Isn't this a lame excuse?
Priscilla, you know, the moment we went into multi-party dispensation, I want to believe some of the brains of a number of Ugandans are not ready for that. That is why whatever issue, however good it is, we come out to politicize it. It is a very big shame, my friend Joe Senyon, when an honorable member of parliament can come out and want to defeat the decision of the deputy speaker when it comes to people being vaccinated. If there is any group of people that are privileged and feel deserving in Uganda are members of parliament. When vaccines first came, first priority, much as we had these other groups, remember what happened at parliament? Vaccination was there. Testing was there. You're so privileged that there is nothing in this country.
You see, this directive also actually comes in time. Sorry to interrupt. It comes in time because at one point earlier on in this year, Parliament had to go into lockdown because of the so many rising cases of COVID-19, and Parliament does interact with a lot of other government entities, including presidential.
So, Priscilla, just drive my point home. We need role models in the fight against COVID-19 and vaccination, and any member of Parliament worth their salt should be an ambassador for vaccination, should even have these pictures on their social media platforms, should encourage people to go for vaccination. If it begins with the politicians, we see our members of parliament telling us to go. We expect to be having about 23 million vaccines in this country. You're looking at only getting 4.8 million people vaccinated by the end of December. We have enough vaccines that exceed even 6 million already in our country. So there is no scarcity at all. Maybe if you talk about a bit availing these vaccines, but when it comes to having, we do have them.
A member of parliament does not even make a line to get a.
That's why I'm trying to understand, to look how did they
people who visit them. It's
looking for members of parliament and those accessing these premises that you must be vaccinated. When South Africa had these challenges, it said, fine, report to campus, get your jab. Parliament, if you feel this is a very important institution that we must have vaccination, then it is okay, call for government to stage a vaccination point at parliament. That as you come in, you get your vaccination. But I think this is politicizing something that is saving lives, and let's differentiate where politics must end and where we must act together as responsible Ugandans to push and save lives of Ugandans. Vaccination saves us death, saves us this burden of buying sijui ventilators, oxygen cylinders. Let's go this way as a country.
The opposition chief whip, Mr. John Baptist Nambeshe, came out to say that if this direction is taken, it could attract legal action. What does that mean?
Yeah, everyone has a right. You see, as even a young law student, they told us that, I remember Mr. Boyenje Francis was Iraqi, also professor now, used to tell us that, you see, there are lawyers who will tout clients. So MPs have lawyers who are always, even when they see a fly in the corridor of parliament, let us sue the chief whip, let us sue the clerk. You know. So suing is okay. You can go to court. At the end of the day, it is the premise of the judiciary to decide. But for us, the biggest issue at hand is that we are dealing with a pandemic situation. How do you handle an abnormal situation? You can't handle an abnormal situation normally unless you're sick in the head. You can't. We've been at it for the last 2 years. Come on, what don't you see? And then you come out and talk about how you're going to hear the people come and say, government has done nothing for the people in Corona. Government has not given food people in Corona. People's businesses bailed out in Corona.
But also, Felix, briefly on the legal element, I was viewing some lawyers, and I think also Ministry of Health and the Minister should also aid us in this direction to come up with a statutory instrument that makes this mandatory, because this is what many members of Parliament were saying, that much as we need this, if there is a law, and this is simple, statutory instrument, then this will greatly help, so that we don't leave these lacunas for the likes of some members. If it's done, it is policy, it is law.
Let me tell you. Even with or without statutory instruments, Robert, some things, you see, the law cannot be used as a tool to abuse people. I think our forecast conversation should be about how do we get out of this situation. I don't think we are going to spend time on enacting a law for people to get vaccinated. That's why the president is saying, we're not going to beg you, please don't die, please don't die, don't die. At the end of the day, we know the effects of COVID. Why do we go through the process of law to get people allowances to be there boasting on ladders? No, you see, and this is a good move. Parliament, if the judiciary can pick, and the executive, at least I know executive, for people who attend cabinet, I don't think any of them is not. But let's get this done, honestly.
All right. Parliament wouldn't be definitely the first government agency to bar unvaccinated persons from the workplace. We've had the national medical stores also applying this 2 weeks ago. They said no jab, no entry. We've had the Ministry of Health also enforcing this particular directive. So overall, as far as different agencies are concerned, they are actually putting in their part of contributing to the directive from the president. Why not members of Parliament? Why not staff members of Parliament? It's definitely, should a leader be a leader by speeching or a leader by example? I think actions speak way louder than words. Looking at the Daily Monitor this morning, they are also kind of taking the same direction. Universities are turning away unvaccinated students, plain and simple. Go get your jab, come back to
Start
school.
with the staff members, and there's one of the discussions meeting I had with one of the institutions, and we agreed at management level that if any person comes in, and we're starting with all employees, whether support staff or academic staff, go home.
Okay.
You either want the job, because I mean, having the 2 years been good enough.
So
to
it's
make
right
you
to say that when Mama said no job, no job, this is what she was exactly meaning, that we must be visionary leaders, but also it's upon our roles as leaders to enforce some of these things. Just like your father would command you to actually go wash the car, you wouldn't question about that. Actually, if you
put on the gate.
My home.
No job, no entry. Yes.
If you question your father washing the car, please, you lie down, you get your corporal punishment. Anyway, we get to look at what else is making headlines in the tabloids. Traffic updates are coming on, and Molen Kenyana will be back to give us an update in weather, nature and climate, which will be closing up our 7 o'clock hour. Stay with us.
Transact using Airtel Money. Use Airtel Money to send money, buy airtime for self, do mobile banking, make merchant payments and international money transfers with a minimum of 1,000 shillings and get 5 minutes free Airtel to Airtel calls valid for 24 hours. Free minutes offer is for any of these fast 5 transactions within the same calendar month. Terms and conditions apply. Airtel Money. Simple, secure, borderless.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Grow together with one of Uganda's largest companies. Apply for MTN shares for as low as 100,000 Uganda shillings. And when you apply using MTN Mobile Money, you get 10 free extra shares for every 100 shares you apply for. Dial *165*65# or use the MyMTN app to apply now. The terms and conditions of the offer and other important information are set out in the prospectus. For assistance, visit any MTN service center or Stanbic Bank branch countrywide or a licensed broker.
Getting GoTV was the best decision James has ever made. Finding a good place to watch football was never easy, but it was costly until James discovered something big. Now he can finally enjoy the benefits of homegrown advantage with a decoder and 1 month of GoTV Valley. For just 25,000 shillings, enjoy the world's biggest leagues and cap competitions. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, talking about being vaccinated to access public places or particular places, the Attorney General in the new vision, Attorney General defends blocking unvaccinated workers. So the earlier, the better. Go get that jab before situations become tough for you at where you fetch bread. Still looking at the new vision, bombings, 40 more suspects arrested. That is, security gives details of those arrested as operations continue. The new vision also looks at the reopening of universities, where security officers at Chambog University checking students' bags and vaccination cards before allowing them onto the premises. So every student here, they check your bag, but you also present your vaccination card. No vaccination card could lead to no entry for education. Still on education, past A level, there is mathematics and chemistry plus senior 1 biology. And here there is so much regarding curfew, where 2,000 436 pedestrians were arrested, and 3,341 borders impounded. Curfew still, we are seeing people being arrested. And the New Vision also gives you more interesting stories regards tips on security.
So in the Daily Monitor, DJ Obama, the boy taking Gulu by storm there. But also in the big headline, universities turn away unvaccinated students. I'll look at security screen returning students at gates, and students claim university never alerted them, but they can't ready. Now, Chambogo VC says they did not issue directives and no turn up from students across institutions. Well, of course, a parliament also now walks back on vaccination, and Saraceni fight, URSB says with Jovia. Now, still in the Daily Monitor, our judiciary gets 47 new magistrates. Government lists priorities for financial year 2022-2023. And of course, today in history, Tanzania hands over Uganda prisoners of war, that is in 1972. And also again in history, truck explosion kills 3,000 in Afghanistan. Wow.
In the New Vision, we begin with the COVID-19 tracker for Uganda, where new confirmed cases stand at 65. Positivity rate is at 1.3. Looking at new deaths, 0. Total deaths so far registered in motherland Uganda, 1,215. Once again, get that jab so that we fight death, severe illness and hospitalization, but also perfect the SOPs so that we keep the positivity rate as low as possible. Signs of COVID-19, very clear: headache, you have a cough, please. And health tips: wash your hands often with soap and water, maintain social distance of at least 2 meters, avoid touching your face before washing your hands with soap and water. Today in history, it was on this date, the 2nd of November, the year 1988, when security key to constitution. There is so much there, and a picture of Eria Kategada. Let we also look at the same date, the year 1988, when Tanzania started coal mining.
Now in sports, Mubiru prays for patience at police, and UEFA Champions League Barca in limbo with Kiev game. And also ruthless under-20 Ugandan girls maul Djibouti. But also Shaban back to Chitende, and court embraces tough job in swim league. And also Oilers qualify for Ball Elite 16, and Najemba starts in Djibouti massacre. Heavyweight, that is Pugilis, Chankonye unstoppable, and Cheptegei strikes lifelong victory.
In the New Vision Sport this morning, we look at she cranes flying high. There's also so much regarding netball, and of course we look at introducing the Bantam, that is the Queen of England here, more so when it comes to sports there, and all sports results are in the New Vision for you there. But don't forget, Ruben is going to be here to give you all the updates in the world of sports, and I hope he'll give you more regarding the 13-0 that our girls really did us proud, and it gave us moments of excitement. That was yesterday. But all those with Ruben Pima Kasera Chibirango, the sportsman.
Now the Daily Nation, remark angers Ruto's allies. Some argue war on graft in a ploy to, that is, derail his bid for top seat. And voters listing extended by Sunday, that is the commission there had listed at least 1.2 million out of the 6 million voters. Now, of course, in other headlines, taxpayers boss how claims are hallowing from at least 1.4 billion to 34 billion as state officers watched there. Now heads want schools closed to end crisis. Crisis of what? Get the papers for yourself. Now Huru camp sets date to kick out rebels, and prosecution also boss Attorney General failed to act on Wainjiru murder. Well, more of that. Get yourself copies of the dailies, but still on Good Morning Uganda, we want to give you now the traffic updates with Priscilla.
Well, good morning to you once again, and thank you so much for being with us here on Good Morning Uganda. We get to look at the traffic update this morning and what it's looking like. I'll be picking up my trip all the way from Bukoto and coming into different places through Kira Road, have a sneak peek into what it looks like as far as Kamwota is concerned, and then into the heart of the city. Looking at Bukoto, where you do have the Bukoto-Ntinda Road, it's actually looking a bit clear on the traffic that is heading from Bukoto into Ntinda. However, for the traffic that is coming in from Ntinda onto Bukoto Road at the traffic lights for Bukoto-Chisasi stretch there, you get to see a long line of traffic jam that is coming up from Commercial Road, which is the Valley Road that connects Magambo Road to the Bukoto-Ntinda route. A sneak peek into what traffic is looking like in Ntinda around the trading center this morning. You get to see that there's not so much traffic within the trading center itself. However, on the Chisasi Chanja route, you get to see a red zone there for traffic that is coming to interact with the Ntinda trading center. Also, Old Kira Road is bringing in a lot of traffic, especially with the cross section there with Chigobe Road, and indicators of jam being slowed down, of course, because these two roads then join to make one road, and because this one end has been narrowed down because of the newly constructions that have happened in this area code, you now get to have control of traffic, which means one car or maximum two cars each time at a go. We get to move away from Ntinda. Obviously, you do have a high traffic that is around Magambo Road connecting route, which is around Hardware World, simply because of the traffic that is coming in from Chanja, Chisasi roundabout, trying to avoid to the trading center to be able to still connect on the Bukoto Road, and that's definitely going to slow you down in one way or another. Away from that, Bukoto at the traffic lights, we get to see the jam around Kavira Country Club is also not so much because it's being managed by the traffic lights. But then we get to see orange and red zones on the Bukoto-Chisasi route, and that gives you an indicator that there is a lot of course, it's a residential area right now, and also the fact that there's a lot of, or at two schools that are actually international schools, so business is continuing for international schools in this particular area code, which then also affects the traffic jam, which is also what we are seeing around Moyo Close, where you do have the Bukoto Heights apartment on Old Kira Road. That is the downside of Kamwota. You also get to see that Moyo Close is having a long stretch of a red zone. Yes, the close is a very small narrow road, can only take in a car per time in the sharp corners that it has there, but also because of the international school, you get to experience a lot of jam coming into Kamwota, where you get to see Kira Road and Lugogo Bypass. On the Lugogo Bypass, there's not so much traffic indicators there. Of course, you do have that triangle there, Old Kira Road and Bukoto Road, and there's not so much traffic jam there. Also, because it's being managed and sorted out by the traffic lights, you wouldn't be expecting a lot. Stepping into the areas of Kamwota, downside of Kamwota, off Mwanda Road, you get to see Solar Road. You get to see there's a lot of jam for people that are staying within these residential areas, and people who will use Nsova Road to actually make it through the Mulago areas or Kamwota areas, Mwanda Road, Upper Road, to be able to then connect into Kamwota, either wanting to access this other side of Nakawa or access the heart of the city. And also you look at the upper side of Kamwota, where you do have Kololo Hill Drive, you do have Acacia route. You get to see that then those don't have so much jam as of this time, which gives us 26 minutes to 8 a.m. this morning, and there's no indication of jam. However, one of the challenges that has come on Acacia Lane as of recently, because the road is newly reconstructed, they put traffic lights at every turn off, and that has caused a lot of jam to actually be created on this route. Surprisingly, I used this golf course route here, and it brought me to the Lower Kololos Terrace. I wanted to access Nakasero through the golf course traffic lights, but guess what? The traffic light only runs for 5 seconds, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and that is surely not a good way of managing traffic. So people use this as alternative routes to run away from the heavy traffic jam. And if you're giving them 5 seconds, 5 seconds does not even take in 2 cars. So it creates now a lot of traffic jam. You would be surprised that the red zones are indications because of the new traffic lights that are at especially this particular turn of spots on Acacia Road. So I think those in charge of transport should be able to rectify that and at least allow 2-3 minutes for each of these closes to be able to transact with the main route to manage the traffic there. Otherwise it's going to cause more harm than good. Anyway, away from that, the golf course traffic lights indication, you do have traffic that is not coming up really. There's not much happening at Oasis Mall. It's only the traffic that is at the traffic lights that should be expected there, because it's again managed by the traffic lights. But every single morning there are officers to sort out whatever is being looked at there. Surprisingly, from Oasis Mall, Nile Avenue, which is near our home here at UBC, you get to have an orange zone that is appearing at the Crested Towers roundabout, and the question is why. So be vigilant. Obviously one of the reasons is because people are trying to step away from the main route traffic on the Kampala Ginger Highway, so they will alternatively use Oasis Mall, connect to Nile Avenue to be able to connect to Speak Road, and then they can connect either to Buganda Road or Kampala Road without having to go through the Kampasam jam on the Kampala Ginger Road. And that is why you would be seeing the red and orange zones appearing on Nile Avenue, stretching all the way to City Square. Those are some of the traffic considerations that you can have for yourself this morning. In regards to a poll question, some of you have responded. I'll take one response. Good morning, family. I think government should put strict laws on people who do deforestation, because the trees they cut help much in rainfall formation, hence resulting into drought, water shortage, etc. At least reforestation should be emphasized for every cut tree. But then how are we going to measure the number of trees that have been cut? Secondly, government should provide safe havens to people living in swampy areas, because these are some of the areas which are mostly affected when it comes to rain, and that is, cats and dogs. Cricket Gagamel in Machindye Luafu does give us a response there. Okay, I'll take those as the one response for the day. Molen Kenyana does return with us here on set, and she's going to be talking about weather, nature and climate. Good morning to you once again, Molen.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Priscilla. Well, I like what Derek is talking about. I mean, we have to encourage we need to plant more trees, because it looks like it is because of what we are doing, especially deforestation, that we are taking away some of these sinks to some of the gases that are trapping heat within the atmosphere. So that continues to be a challenge, but we also look at the fact that there is a lot that can be done, especially now that we're talking about cutting emissions by 2030. We are pushing for a net zero campaign. So that means we are looking at a scenario where by 2030 we at least look at ourselves going for a target at that is 1.5 degrees Celsius. But that looks to be far-fetched. We have world leaders converging in Glasgow, talking about some of the solutions that we should be looking at as the world, not just individually. But I think what is interesting in this scenario is the fact that we did look at some of the leaders that are converging to say what is being expected. But I like the message from Patricia Espinosa.
It is with joy and enthusiasm that I officially welcome you to COP26. I thank the outgoing COP presidency of Chile, and especially Minister Schmidt, for their leadership in the last 2 challenging years. I also officially welcome the incoming UK presidency and Minister Sharma. I thank you for your collaborative efforts as we work together to make COP26 a resounding success. And to all of you, I say this, congratulations. Congratulations to those in this room, those watching online, and to everyone involved in this process. Think back on the last 2 years since we last met in Madrid. The early confusion, the pandemic, and what it could mean for our process. Think about the decisions we made together, the skills we developed together to take advantage of communication technologies. Think also of those we lost to COVID-19. Our hearts are with those who continue to suffer. But let us also acknowledge what we have accomplished. We have kept the process going. We have not let the pandemic stand in the way of addressing the most critical issue facing this generation and those to come. We are here because of you and your work. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Let's ensure that work was not in vain. As Scottish poet Robert Burns once wrote, "Now is the day, now is the hour." Colleagues, dear friends, we stand at a pivotal point in history. Humanity faces stark but clear choices. We either choose to achieve rapid and large-scale reductions of emissions to keep the goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees, or we accept that humanity faces a bleak future on this planet. We either choose to boost adaptation efforts to deal with current extreme weather disasters and build resilience to address future impacts, or we accept that more people will die, more families will suffer, and more economic harm will follow. We either choose to recognize that business as usual is not worth the devastating price we're paying and make the necessary transition to a more sustainable future, or we accept that we are investing in our own extinction. It's about much more than environment. It's about peace, stability, and the institutions we have built to promote the well-being of all. It is for these reasons and more that we must make progress here in Glasgow. We must make it a success, as President Sharma has just said. Success at COP, here at this COP, is entirely possible. Success is possible because we have the platform for action.
Yeah. Yes, I think I did like the fact that she's pointing at world leaders to take action. I mean, we're talking about climate change. We have scientists that are developing these projections on what we're looking at in the future, but we are also putting it in the hands of the global leaders, which we all know these are politicians. But there is no way we're going to take climate change off the political agenda if we want most of these actions to be made. And I think what I also like is that it is on individual efforts for each country. We are going to look at what Uganda is in for. Yes, we have had more extreme weather events, but what can we do, especially looking at adaptations? And I hope our negotiators in Glasgow are also fronting this, because there is nothing more that we can do, especially in regard to stopping the cause of this, because we contribute just less of the global emissions. That means that even if we suffer the effects of climate change, we continue to be more vulnerable. But what can be done, especially with adaptation? And this is something that we always talk about. We have the global fund that is coming through. That is the $100 billion that has been promised to the developing countries. And I know that Uganda is the beneficiary. How we use this money is going to be where the forecast is. Yes, we continue to see extreme weather events. We continue to see flooding in Kasese, especially that area has been a hotspot for flooding. We see more frequency of landslides for the Elgon region. So can this fund be used to actually make sure that people living in these areas are safe, and also make sure that we avoid future scenarios where we have events hitting and then people lose their lives? But can't we rehabilitate these people? Can't we find a way to make sure that most of these areas are put in some strategic planning via the ministry? And this is something that I want most of our negotiators to really look at keenly. But anyway, there is a lot that is still going on, and today COP26 is fronting the fact that we will be talking about land use, deforestation. Well, we've had most of our forests here in Uganda encroached on, and last week I was having engagement with the youth who are actually fronting the fact that Bugoma forest is no more, and they are worried for other forests that could be attacked by political players, as the youth are calling it. But still, this is something that as a country we have to look into. Do we really need to encroach on some of these forests? The effects of doing that, we have seen a lot of indicators throughout the country, and I think it's about time that we move to the action. We walk the talk, and most of the policies that are being made, even as we come back from COP26, you will see most of the policies that are meant to be implemented are still on the table. So I think it will still be a question of our action. But yes, let's go ahead and take a look at weather over Uganda for today from our satellites. We still have that rainy system that did start off early in the morning, and it is still over the island of Lake Victoria, but that system is moving and looks like it is headed westwards and could be bringing us rains this morning across parts of central Lake Victoria. That will take in Kampala. We do have parts of Entebbe, Wakiso, and also the western part of Lake Victoria where we have Masaka, we have Rengo. That area can expect to have rains this morning. That system is headed your way. You just still have a small window, especially people in Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso as well. It's just a small window. Those rains are on their way, and they will be coming for several places. Well, we have another rainy system that is starting to develop across the northwestern part of the country, as well as the central north, that is across Gulu, Padel, also headed for Arua. That system looks like is just developing as well, so it is still bringing mostly cloudy conditions across that area, but you do have rains that are headed to the northwestern. Central north could actually be clearing, and we could look at sunny intervals for this morning. But we'll go ahead and take a look at our forecast for some of the areas that we have for this morning. But it looks like most areas did wake up with mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now we look at the central part of Lake Victoria Basin, where we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, Mukono. We have those rains in the forecast, but also starting off at a cool 25 degrees centigrade. That system is likely to continue throughout several places during this morning. Now we look at the central northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Kitgum, Padel, and Adjumani. We're having a clearing trend where we'll be looking at a mix of clouds and sunshine for this morning, starting off with warm weather at 28 degrees centigrade, but we do expect rainy conditions in that area later in the afternoon. Now we look at the eastern part of Central, where we have Luwero, Wobulenzi, Buludi, Nakaseke. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, also starting off with a warm 28 degrees centigrade, but we do expect rains in that area later during the afternoon. You can look out for those. Now we also have across the western part of Lake Victoria, we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Semba, Bule, Rakai. We are forecasting those isolated rains, and starting off at pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. That rainy system is headed your way and also likely to continue into the afternoon. Now we also have one that is actually developing towards the Karamoja region and also across the Choga region. That could be bringing us rains, especially for areas around Lira and also the Choga region. So that is also going to be there for this morning, but it looks like much of eastern Uganda is also just dealing with cloudy conditions that could develop into rainy conditions, but that will be later in the afternoon. For now, I think we're looking out for this system that is bringing rains also across parts of Jinja, Tororo, that is eastern Lake Victoria. You can look out for those rainy conditions. Well, I'll leave you at that. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through that. And later we'll have sports by Ruben. My name is Molen Kenyana. I want to wish you a good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
how to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
everywhere you go. MTN.
Grow together with one of Uganda's largest companies. Apply for MTN shares for as low as 100,000 Uganda shillings. And when you apply using MTN mobile money, you get 10 free extra shares for every 100 shares you apply for. Dial *165*65# or use the MyMTN app to apply now. The terms and conditions of the offer and other important information are set out in the prospectus. For assistance, visit any MTN service center or Stanbic Bank branch countrywide or a licensed broker.
Welcome to the home of our stars. Come on in. We have our movies, gossip, reality, conflict, tulinane comedy. Basirebo baffe bonna live right here. Because no matter where you go, this is the home of our stars.
This year, as Power Magic Mix 3, we are delighted to invite you to see, experience, and celebrate with us. Power Magic, the home of our stars. Multi-Choice Uganda is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Welcome to English in a Minute. You already know there are 7 days in a week. But what is the "it" in this expression?
Jonathan, I've been working on this project for the past 15 hours. I am